Hello everyone, in this problem we are given a 1D array and we have to convert into a 2D array by following these three rules. The first rule is that the 2D array should only contain elements from the original array. The second rule is that each row should only have distinct integers. This means that we cannot have two same elements in the same row. And for the third rule, it's given that we should have minimal number of rows. If this wasn't the case, we would have each element on separate rows, so our problem will be very simplified. Let's look at the example given. Here we have three ones, so they have to be placed in three separate rows. We have only 1, 2, so we could place that over here. We are given two threes, so they can be placed at the first and the second rows. And finally, we have a single 4 which can be placed at the first row. This is one of the possible answers. If we were to swap any of these rows, we'll get still a valid answer and we can return any of them. Let's try to understand how many rows we'll need using this example. In this example, you can see that we have 4 ones. Similarly, we have 2 2s and single 3 and single 4s. Do you think only 2 rows will be sufficient to house all the numbers? Let's see what happens in that case. We have 4 ones, so we can place the first one and the second one in the first and the second row. But we still have 2 ones remaining. Where do we place them? So you can make a key observation that since the maximum frequency of all these numbers is 4, we'll need at least 4 rows to house these numbers. So our minimum number of rows required will be 4. Hence it would make sense to store all the frequencies using a hash map. And then using that we can find the maximum frequency. Let's see how we store the remaining 2s. We have 2 2s, we can place them in any of the rows. So we'll place them in the first and the second row. Similarly, for the single 3 and 4, we can place them in the first row itself. Let's try to understand this with the help of a bigger example. Here the maximum frequency is 40, so we'll need at least 40 rows. We'll now iterate over our hash map in any order. So let's say we first encounter this number. We see that it has to be placed in 10 different rows. So we can start from the top row, and for the next 10 rows we are going to place it. Similarly, when we encounter this number, we'll have to place it in 10 different rows again, starting from the top. And now when we encounter this, we see that it has to be placed in 40 different rows. So we'll start from the top. And then till the 40th row, we'll place it in each of the separate rows. And for our last number, we have to place it in 20 different rows. The time complexity of this would be O of n because we only have to go through the numbers once to count their frequency. And when we are placing them in the result array, we have to go through the hash map only once. And the space complexity would be O of n because we have to maintain a hash map of size n. Let's implement our solution. The first thing that we'll do is count the frequency of each element. We'll use a counter for that. And for determining the number of rows that we'll need, we can use the maximum frequency in this hash map. For that, we can directly go through the values and find the maximum in it. Now we'll initialize a 2D array with number of rows equal to the maximum frequency. We'll now go through each entry in the hash map. And for each frequency, we have to place this number into different rows. So we'll iterate over the frequency, and each time we are going to place that number into a different row. So in total, we are going to place this number into the number of frequency rows starting from the top. Please note that even though it looks like a double nested for loop, it is still going to be O of n because for each number, we are going to iterate over the count of its frequency, and we are adding it to the result only once. And once we are done with our for loop, we can return our result. We are now done with our solution. If you thought this video was helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more such content. Thanks for watching this video and see you soon.